7 on the dot. Turn it up, give it all you got. Stories and facts, let it unfold. Strange little truths in the tales we're told. Cat Hobson's on, and the air feels alive. Questions in the dark come back to life. UFO lights in the shadowed signs. Paranormal calls through the phone lines. Leaning close, don't look away. Something in the static wants to say, open that door, let the wonder in. Sunday night starts once the signal spins. Fate magazine, radio. Cat Hobson, take me there. Fate magazine, radio. Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained. Facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fate magazine, radio. Tune in, tune in. A name on the screen, a knock at the wall. Footsteps fading down the hall. Old reports and a brand new lead. Every caller has a different seed. From www.fatemag.com. Straight to your speakers, then you're gone. 7 p.m. Central Time. One more mystery in your mind. Leaning close, don't look away. Something in the static wants to say, open that door, let the wonder in. Sunday night starts once the signal spins. Fake magazine, radio. Cat Hobson, take me there. Fake magazine, radio. Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained. Facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fake magazine, radio. Tune in, tune in. If you ever felt that chill, if you ever heard come still, there's a place for the questions you keep, where the odd and real don't sleep. Fate magazine, radio. Cat Hobson, take me there. Fate magazine, radio. Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained. Facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fate magazine, radio. Tune in, tune in. Sunday night, 7 Central. Fate magazine, radio. FateMag.com.
Hello there. Don't y'all just love that song? I had nothing to do with it. That is all Carl. And I'm going to tell you, I love that he put some of my personal experiences into it. So it just makes it that much more special. And I will tell you about some of those experiences some other time, but it's a lot of fun. You are listening to Fate Magazine Radio, and I am Kat Hobson, your host, and we are the online voice of Fate Magazine, which has been in publication since 1947. And we have a new owner-editor, Matthew Kibbe. If you have not yet read him, what are you waiting for? He is really a terrific guy, and we have our newest edition here. Isn't that gorgeous? He is still keeping the path going, right? With the beautiful artwork and beautiful experiences too. And this one we're probably going to read a couple of articles out of. That's what we're doing tonight. We are doing the best of Fate Magazine. I have some editions here. I did this last week. We didn't get through very many of them. And right now, we are having, in our family, a really busy time. I will be back with live guests beginning next week. And, I am really appreciative of all of you because I love what I do. I love being a bebop. and a mom and a wife and a dog mom. And so far, that's all I've got. So just, fun stuff. And I wouldn't trade any of it, but it gets a little hectic at times. So I am enjoying bringing you these. I love Fate magazine, and I am an avid reader. When I get a chance, I love to get to conferences, hand them out. We had a mermaid edition that came out. Those things went so fast at the different conferences. I've never seen anybody snatch them up. And I've got beautiful covers on all of these. They all come perfect. So I just love that people love it like I do. So I know that we have had so much going on with the UFO files coming out from the Pentagon. We've had 5 releases to date, and I've done shows on all of them. I didn't find the 4th release to really be something that was very mind boggling. It seemed to be just a little bit more of the 3rd that didn't seem to really meet what we had gotten with the first 3. I'm waiting to see what comes next because I'm very into this. When I have friends in the Scientific Coalition on UAP Studies. I wasn't able to get to the conference this year in Toronto, but I've been to the others that were here in Huntsville. I just couldn't travel with everything going on in our family right now. But I had Rich Hoffman on with me, and he is somebody who is definitely, he could be from Missouri. He is a show me guy, right? And he does not, we've seen the videos, right? We've seen the little dots of light moving through the air. We've seen all the reporting for centuries. We've had experiencers say that they were abducted. I don't doubt them. Scientific guys want mechanics, right? They want to see the schematics of these craft. They want to see what propulsion systems they may be using. And I am in that camp, but I'm also aware that we can't do what they're doing. We have no idea how these are functioning. We want to think it's solar. We want to think that it's, nuclear. We want to think that it's whatever we are familiar with. And I'm frozen in the most eyes to the sky position there. And I'm got a great Wi-Fi connection. We'll see if it keeps freezing up on us. I doubt it. It'll be fine. But I think that these people are wanting schematics on how these craft are flying. We don't even know if they're using anything that we've ever been aware of. We've only been flying for a century. We have, rocket propulsion is our maximum thing right now that we're aware of. Nuclear, I'm sure that if you're using nuclear, it'd be a little bit more powerful. But we are doing our submarines that way. So I don't know what people really expect as far as an understanding of what's happening. But we'll find out someday. And I hope it's so soon someday. And Carl, I still seem to be freezing. And I'm not sure what to do about that. So I will just move very slowly. So we will move on. I wanted to talk about some things that I have here. This edition of Fate magazine. Carl, should I restart? I should restart.
Yeah, you need to go
Is
out
that?
and pop back in and
I will do that.
set your camera down lower in your settings, like 720.
Okay.
Try that.
Let me find where I'm
Go
going
to
to
your
do that,
camera.
and then I'm going to go.
Okay.
I will be back, and Carl will chat you up or play music for you. Be right back.
Kat will be back here shortly. She has technical difficulty going right now, so just stay tuned.
Sunday night, Sunday night, 7 on the dot. Turn it up, give it all you got. Stories and facts, let it unfold. Strange little truths in the tales we're told. Cat Hobson's on, and the air feels alive. Questions in the dark come back to life. UFO lights in the shadowed signs. Paranormal calls through the phone lines. Leaning close, don't look away. Something in the static wants to say, open that door, let the wonder in. Sunday night starts once the signal spins. Fake magazine, radio, Cat Hobson, take me there. Fake magazine, radio, Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained, facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fake magazine, radio. Tune in, tune in. A name on the screen, a knock at the wall. Footsteps fading down the hall. Old reports and a brand new lead. Every caller has a different seed. From www.fatemag.com. Straight to your speakers, then you're gone. 7 p.m. Central Time. One more mystery in your mind. Leaning close, don't look away. Something in the static wants to say, open that door, let the wonder in. Sunday night starts once the signal spins. Fake magazine, radio, Cat Hobson, take me there. Fake magazine, radio, Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained, facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fake magazine, radio, tune in, tune in. If you ever felt that chill, if you ever heard come still, there's a place for the questions you keep, where the odd and real don't sleep. Fake magazine, radio, Cat Hobson, take me there. Fake magazine, radio, Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained, facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fake magazine, radio, tune in, tune in. Sunday night, 7 Central. Fake magazine, radio. FakeMag.com.
Somebody like that coming to visit you on a Saturday with ways to be able to hear you and you're not talking to her. How many times do you get some? Hello, I'm back. Be afraid, be very afraid, right? Not really. Oh, Al's going bashful on me. But I am hoping that this fixed that. I did what Carl suggested with my camera, and we'll just see what happens, right? Now, one of the things that I wanted to discuss when I was, before I was so rudely interrupted by my computer, I have been doing this for a very long time. I've done one show for 10 years and added fate, and I've done this one for almost almost six. But I'm in my fifth year, and I am fortunate enough to get to go places and listen to people speak and all that kind of thing. One of the places that fascinate me, and a man who fascinates me because it's his, Seth Shostak, is over SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I have been a person on um, the SETI system for, well, for a long time. And I had the chance to share dinner with Seth and his wife at Contact in the Desert a couple of years ago now. And he has always told me every time we come across each other, I'm like, have you found anything yet? And he's like, never. I said, not a damn thing. He was like, not a damn thing. I was like, well, what about the well signal? He's like, there's no telling what that was. I was like, okay. And I just kind of looked at it. The first time he was telling me this was at the second Alien Con. We were in Pasadena. And I was like, that just seems very hard to fathom. So we just kind of, I went off puzzled. He went off to go do, his thing. And so the next year, I saw him in Indian Wells, and that was at Contact. He said, again, the first time was at the Pasadena Alien Con. This time was in Indian Wells at Contact in the desert. And that's where we're having dinner together. And he was like, nope, nothing. Because I asked again. And I said, and all the time that you have been using a global communications network through all these connected computers all over the world, nothing has come through. And he was like, absolutely not once. And I didn't bring up the wow signal again. That didn't get the best response. But I do think that I'm just flabbergasted that this has never done anything. Well, lo and behold, as I was going through back editions of Fate, I found this November 2007 copy in my drawer, and hadn't read it for a while. So, and it is, see, I've got too much light here. That might help some if I just tilt it. But I mean, we have the most interesting covers. I love it. And so this one's got haunted lighthouses, which of course is, me. Lemurians, Mount Shasta. We actually have Steve Stockton coming on with me soon about Mount Shasta. Enter the Other World. But lo and behold, and this is not Seth, this is by Michael Shermer, and it's E.T. and SETI, why we have yet to make contact with extraterrestrials. And he says, humans are pattern-seeking storytelling animals. We look for and find patterns in our world and in our lives, then weave narratives around those patterns to bring them to life and give them meaning. Such as, excuse me, I'm going to see how long this is. This is so long. But such as the stuff of which myth, religion, history, and science are made. Sometimes the patterns we find represent reality. DNA is the basis of heredity, or the fossil record is the history of life. But sometimes the patterns are imposed by our minds. The face on Mars, or the image of the Virgin Mary on a window. The rub lies in distinguishing the true from the false patterns and the essential tension pits, skepticism against credulity, as we struggle to determine the nature of reality. That tension is at the forefront of the debate over how likely or unlikely the evolution of intelligent life is here on Earth, as well as elsewhere in the cosmos, particularly a culture generating language, producing technology, using forms of intelligent life, using like ours. Evolutionary theorists are interested in the question because it taps into the relative roles of chance and law in nature and natural history. As astronomers and astrobiologists are interested in the question because it cuts into the heart of how likely or unlikely it is that we will find life on other planets or make contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Does the pattern of life's history and nature's laws indicate that our existence was preordained from the beginning? Or does the pattern indicate that we are the product of a one-off event? Is our existence a necessity? It could not have been otherwise. Or is our existence a contingency? It need not have been. A course gained look at the question finds scientists roughly divided between astrobiologists and SATI astronomers who tend to be optimistic, estimating a relatively high probability of intelligent life evolving in the cosmos or revolving in an earthbound thought experiment. And biologists and evolutionary theorists who tend to be pessimistic, estimating a relatively low probability of intelligent life evolving elsewhere or re-evolving here. Since the question cannot be answered in a laboratory experiment, we must turn to those sciences that attempt to answer it indirectly, such as those employed by SETI scientists and evolutionary theorists. The SETI optimists, astrobiologists, and SETI astronomers base their optimism on numbers that they plug into the canonical Drake equation, proposed in 1961 by the radio astronomer Frank Drake for estimating the number of technological civilizations that reside in our galaxy. And this is the equation. Whoops. There you go. For those in the back that want to write it down. When n equals the number of communicative civilizations, r equals the rate of formation of suitable stars, fp equals the fraction of those stars with planets, ne equals the number of Earth-like planets per solar system, phi equals the fraction of planets with life, ft the fraction of planets with intelligent life. See, these glasses are not strong enough for this little print. The fraction of planets with communicating technology, L the lifetime of communicating civilizations. Although we have a fairly good idea of the rate of stellar formation and we are confident that the significant number of these stars have planets, it is too soon to estimate the rate of formation of Earth-like planets because the technology is not yet available to detect planets smaller than Jupiter. In the SETI literature, a 10% figure is often used, where in the galaxy of 100 billion stars, there will be 10 billion sun-like stars, 1 billion Earth-like planets, 100 billion planets with life, 10 million planets with intelligent life, and 1 million planets with intelligent life capable of radio technology. Although most SETI astronomers are realistic about the limitation of such estimates, I was puzzled to encounter numerous caveats about L. The lifetime of technological technological civilizations such as this one from SETI Institute astronomer Seth Shostak. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, too much light. There we go. I love our art. The lack of precision in determining these parameters pales in comparison to our ignorance of L. Similarly, the Mars Society president and space exploration visionary Robert Zubrin says that the biggest uncertainty revolves around the value of L. We have very little data to estimate this number, and the value we pick for it strongly influences the results of the calculation. We're going to fix this. There we go. Estimates of L by astronomers reflect this uncertainty, ranging from 10 years to 10 million years, with a mean of about 50,000 years. Using a conservative Drake equation calculation where L equals 50,000 years, 1 per 4,300 light years. Applying Robert Zubrin's optimistic and modified Drake equation, Zubrin's calculation assumes the Milky Way galaxy has 400 billion stars, of which 10% are suitable G and K type stars, not part of a multiple star system, with almost all having planets, and 10% of these containing an active biosphere, and 50% of those as old as Earth. It goes on because this is really long. I will copy this and post it on Facebook. But said I find this inconsistency in the estimation of L perplexing because it is the one component in the Drake equation for which we have copious empirical data from the history of civilization on Earth. To compute my own value of L, I compiled the links of 60 civilizations, the number of years from inception to collapse, including Sumeria, Mesopotamia, Babylonia, the 8 dynasties of Egypt, the 6 civilizations of Greece, the Roman Republic and Empire, and others in the ancient world, plus various civilizations since the fall of Rome, including the 9 dynasties and 2 republics of China, 4 in Africa, 3 in India, 2 in Japan, 6 in Central and South America, and 6 modern states of Europe and America. For all 60 civilizations in my database, there was a total of 25,234 years, or L equals 430.5 years. For more modern and technological societies, L decreases with the 28 civilizations since the fall of Rome, averaging only 304.5 years. Plugging these figures into the Drake equation goes a long way towards explaining why ET has yet to visit or call. So, despite these skeptical calculations, I am an unalloyed enthusiast for the SETI program because the importance and impact of making contact far outweigh the relatively minuscule cost to conduct a search. Nevertheless, I'm not optimistic that contact will be made in my lifetime or that of my descendants for the next several thousand years because of the number of evolutionary contingencies, which are not even represented in the Drake equation, necessary to drive an animal lineage toward technological intelligence. And once they get there, they may off themselves with their advanced technologies, as we have seen happen to nearly every civilization that ever flourished on Earth. And it does go on about the weather, but I'm going to skip to the final blip, resolving the debate. In 1982, Carl Sagan published a petition in Science urging the scientific respectability of SETI, for which he garnered many distinguished dignitaries, including such biologists as David Baltimore, Melvin Calvin, Francis Crick, Manfred Egan, Thomas Eisner, Stephen Jay Gould, Matthew Meselson, Linus Pauling, David Rope, and E.O. Wilson. The petition proposed that in addition to debating the issue, The hypothesis should be tested by running the experiment. We are unanimous in our conviction that the only significant test of the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence is an experimental one. No priori agreements on this subject can be compelling or should be used as a substitute for an observational program. The SETI search continues, and we all await its outcome. And Michael Shermer, I'm sorry I butchered that, but Michael Shermer is a publisher of Skeptic Magazine, www.skeptic.com, and a monthly columnist for Scientific American, www.sciam.com. He is the author of Why People Believe Weird Things, How We Believe, The Science of Good and Evil, and Why Darwin Matters. He has a new book at that time called Mind of the Market. So there's that. But, it's really interesting because I had not read that article when I had my conversation with Seth, my last conversation with Seth. And I think it's something that I wish I had known, because as much as I butchered the reading, it really does matter. It's an important project. And we got one signal. We did get that. I mean, we haven't gotten one since. I don't know. Was it a misdial? I mean, I just find it interesting that we have all these observable anomalies in our sky. We have militaries around the globe seeing what they believe to be craft. And I cannot believe that all of these, lights in the sky that we're seeing are not craft, because some of them are close enough for an observer to ascertain the shape, get a feel for the speed, get a feel for, is it moving in an intelligent fashion? Our military pilots observed when the part that's been released to us that they actually are, able to move through several mediums: air, water, what else? And apparently they're quick as quick could be. They're moving through water without appearing to experience resistance. And it's pretty cool stuff. And the fact that we're not getting communication acknowledged leads to a whole different other set of questions for this girl anyway. So that's something. And I have here, this is a full color issue. And this is issue 741. And of course, there's no month. It's fairly recent, because we're going to read about my friend, Tony Rathman. And this is an article that he submitted. And if you do not know who Tony Rathman is, you're missing out. He's an excellent human. He has been working on a project for a long time. It's called Staticom, STATICOM, the Staticom project. He has experienced a bit of a health crisis this year, but he is home and working and getting it grooving. I got to experience Staticom in Gettysburg. I did not know that Tony and Cherie were going to be there. And so I walked in the door, and there is a sign that said the Staticom project, Tony Rathman, this way. And I was like, oh my gosh, because we knew each other online. Tony started doing a show back when I was doing just paranormal experience, and I had an evidence contest. And people submitted their best evidence, and I reviewed it and I went through it, and I had two other people reviewing it with me. And hands down, Tony Rathman had the best evidence. He had video and he had audio, and he is an audio guy. And so Staticom is a result of his search for a better way to communicate with spirits. And when we were in Gettysburg, he was doing presentations, letting people experience the device. And at the end of the night, we were all just sitting in the room. We had gone out and gotten something to eat, which if you're in Gettysburg, do not wait till bedtime to go get something to eat, because you will not find any food. Promise you. But we talked some burger joint into giving us something. One restaurant waited until we walked up to the door to lock the door. They were schmucks. But one of the burger joints fed us and sent us on our way with bags of food so that we wouldn't go inside. It was really funny. But anyway, so Staticom, the closest thing to Thomas Edison's phone to the dead. And it really is. So this is fun. I love it when it's my friends in these magazines, right? It's just so cool. So first of all, I'm going to show you. These are the researchers behind the Staticom project. And every one of them is a genius. So we will learn more about them here. The Staticom project has encompassed years of research into successful instrumental transcommunication methods and has led to the development of what we call Staticom today, which allows for real two-way communication using nothing but broadband white noise. And that's important. You're not having to wait on words to be spliced together. I mean, it's not, you're not pulling verbiage out of the air. Well, you are, but it's not somebody alive broadcasting. Tony Rathman, an experienced paranormal investigator with 14 years of dedicated research in various global locations such as Japan and the Philippines, initially held a skeptical view of the paranormal. However, his perspective shifted after a ghost hunting experience with his wife Sherry on a Valentine's Day weekend 14 years ago. Following the experience, they captured voices responding to their inquiries on recording devices, sparking Tony's fascination with electronic voice phenomenon, EVP. Tony specialized in EVP research, employing a range of digital recorders and microphones, including parabolic mics, to capture clearer and more relevant responses. His extensive dedication led him to explore the SB7, which notably increased the quantity of responses but posed challenges in deciphering the messages. That's true. Over the next 12 years, Tony delved into instrumental teletranscommunication, ITC, EVP research, and developed custom spirit boxes to enhance response quality and relevance to inquiries. In 2021, while collaborating with fellow paranormal researchers Ron Iacovetti and Lord Gonzalez in New Jersey, Tony was introduced to the direct radio voice method, DRV. This method produced full sentence responses from vacant radio stations, leading to the evolution of DRV into the globally renowned Staticom. Notably, they achieved breakthroughs such as capturing DRV voices in an abandoned zinc mine devoid of radio signals and implementing a sleep machine during a live test as a white noise source to validate that RF or carrier wave reception isn't essential for ITC communication. Partnering with Ron and Lawrence, Tony and wife Sherry significantly contributed to advancing the field of ITC, further validating the effectiveness of the Staticom method. These advancements reflect the pioneering work of Konstantin Raudive, propelling the field of EVP research forward. The evolution of DRV into what is now recognized globally as Staticom resulted from groundbreaking research with pivotal discoveries including conducting DRV sessions within an abandoned zinc mine in New Jersey, where Ron and Lourdes received DRV voices devoid of radio signals. Additionally, Tony Rathman's use of a sleep machine as a source of white noise during a live audience session at a Paracon in Arizona further affirmed that RF or carrier wave reception is not essential for RTC. During the Paracon, Tony conducted an experiment to explore alternative sources of white noise for the DRV method. He replaced the radio with a sleep machine after successfully capturing voices from sources such as fans. That's true. That's really cool too. Fans, air conditioners, running water, and even while driving with mics outside his vehicle. This marked the shift to pure white noise, known today as Staticom. By doing so, Tony addressed concerns about spirit voices being solely from radio broadcasts, emphasizing the role of stochastic I am so tongue-tied. Stochastic resonance. And I know that term, that's so funny. Tony has been committed to advancing the Staticom project, presenting the methodology at various conferences across the United States and outside of the United States now. And demonstrating the device through TDSI, the Digital Seance Initiative, enabling attendees to engage with spirit communication. A 3-part docuseries titled Knowingly Talking to the Unknown was produced by Tony, detailing the research conducted to develop the Staticom method based on Ron's initial book about ITC. The collaborative efforts of Ron Jacobetti, Lourdes Gonzalez, Tony Rathman, and Sherry Rathman have not only revitalized the DRV method, but also evolved into a method closely aligned with Thomas Edison's theoretical phone to the dead. Their rigorous research validated the process by replacing the radio with a white noise generator, eliminating skepticism. Additionally, they achieved 2 groundbreaking milestones in spirit communication: performing real-time audio cleanup and slowing down pure white noise in real time. This new iteration of DRV, now without a radio, was then termed Staticom. The unique methodology gaining recognition in the field is considered by many to represent the future of spirit communication, transcending the limitations of ghost boxes or phone apps. And you can check it out at YouTube, youtube.com/@Staticom-project. And their website is https entityvoices.com/Staticom. And I encourage you to check that out, because if I had not seen it and used it myself, I don't know that I would have fully comprehended just how much better this works for communication. When you have confidence that what you're getting is not something coming through a radio broadcast, that it's not just something random that you're picking up that was broadcast goodness knows when, you are truly getting interaction. And it's very surprising when you first experience it. Cool, but very surprising. I'm always impressed with Tony Rathman. I would never bet against him, and I've told him that. And when it comes to knowing what he's doing, he does. I just love it. And I've utilized some of the techniques that he has discussed in researching communication. It works. It works like a champ. I am so impressed with Mr. Rathman. I'm impressed with all of them because they do work as a team. And I wish that I lived closer to them. I have that problem a lot. I'm way down here in Alabama, and it's a difficult thing. I travel and I investigate with people, and I enjoy getting to investigate with friends. Um, the strangest thing that's ever happened, and to me personally, was that a friend owns a jail called the Old Paulding Jail in Paulding, Ohio, and it's been on TV. I was on the episode. It was horrible. My experience. It was not because of the show. It was just I had a hole in my shirt. I was so embarrassed. But the problem isn't the jail. The the jail is one of the most brilliant sites I've ever investigated, and it's active, intelligent action. And I was not able to go to an event where my friend Rick McCollum was the talent for a public investigation. I was sick and couldn't travel. I love that jail. I've gotten the most intense paranormal experience of my life there. I have had the best interaction with spirit over the years there. Um, it's a brilliantly haunted location with spirits that want to communicate with you and don't mind doing it. Okay. It's one of those rare places that you are going to have, I would say, at least 9 out of 10 times really good activity that you can document. They they know they are intelligent spirits, and there's various kinds of humans there. So it's really kind of interesting. But I was on the phone. I had called my friend, or my friends had called me from the jail while they were investigating, and they started getting activity once they were talking to me. And a K2 that was not anywhere near the phone or moved away from the phone started reacting to me when I was like, hi guys, I'm sorry I can't be there, talking to the ghosts because they know me and I know them. And I was just like, I'm sorry I can't be there, but I'm sick, but these are my friends. So please, show them what you can do and make sure if you have a problem, tell them and they'll help or whatever. And the spirit was responding to everything that I, said intelligently with think it was really cool. So I know what can happen, and it's such a neat thing when you get to see it do it. Just my take on things. And I don't know. This is something that I have another friend who is a very interesting human, and his name is Micah Hanks. I first met Micah when he started writing books, and he wrote a series that I started reading. And Micah Hanks is an interesting human anyway. He's he's just brilliant. And this article that he wrote for Fate, and this is the October 2007 edition, and this is the one that has James Dean's death car for the cover. I showed you this last week. But Micah wrote for this edition, and this is a pretty good article. It's probably 3 pages total, but I do love the graphic. It's so hard with having to have lights. So one of these days I'm going to get good at that, but it might not be today. But it's psychic novelists, fact fiction, or something more. and considering that he is a novelist. But his series, if you can read it, get your hands on it, it's really good. So, the illustration from a French edition of the narrative of author Godwin Pym is what that graphic is. So, when looking at the various let me get a drink. This is just tea, I promise. Can't manage trying to do this without, your full faculties and stuff with them. So, when looking at the various former professions, hobbies, and abilities common among novelists, one may find some striking coincidences. Take, for example, the number of novelists who landed their jobs as full-time writers only after pursuing careers as lawyers. Carly Phillips, John Grisham, Olga Bikos, Alyssa Holliday, and Marjorie M. Liu, to name a few. Perhaps something about the practical mindset one undertakes in the study of law and justice can lead the mind to pick apart reality's most interesting facets and reassemble them eloquently into fiction, having all the indications of real life and yet maintaining an underlying order that lends itself well to the plot each writer hopes will grasp its readers. At times, along with the writer's almost surreal sense of being able to draw from reality for their fiction, emerges something else rather extraordinary. The ability to predict real-life events, name individuals involved, list their occupations, and ultimately tell of their fate on the written page before it unfolds in reality. Indeed, the truth is often stranger than fiction. Predicted cannibalism on the high seas. Now that's something to think about, right? The narrative of author Gordon Pym of Nantucket, published in 1838, is the only complete novel Edgar Allan Poe published in his lifetime. In it, he detailed the story of a stowaway on a whaling vessel, Grampus. Throughout the course of author Gordon Pym's journey, many bizarre incidents occur, but perhaps the most grisly among them would predict the fate of a cabin boy stranded at sea nearly half a century later. In the book, 4 men, survivors of a shipwreck, are left to drift at sea in an open boat, and after several days near starvation ensues. In order to survive, the 3 senior officers decide to murder one among them, the low-ranking cabin boy, Richard Parker, and consume his remains in order to survive. A similar incident of cannibalism actually occurred 42 years later in 1884, elaborated in Neil Hansen's 2000 book, The Custom of the Sea. The title itself a reference to the common seagoing term for cannibalism of the era. Tom Dudley, captain of a 3-man crew sailing the yacht Mignonette, had left Southampton, England for Australia on May 19, 1884. Halfway through the voyage, the men were caught off guard by a monstrous storm off the coast of West Africa, resulting in 4 days of hellish turbulence at sea and ultimately a 40-foot wave which sank the ship. All 4 of the men survived, just as from Poe's story. And after 19 days at sea with little to no rations, Dudley took the weakest amongst them, merely a boy, and killed and devoured his remains in grim fulfillment of the custom of the sea. Once the survivors were found 5 days later, the men were arrested for the murder of the boy, whose name had been none other than Richard Parker. When writing the book, Poe had planned to work out an abstract idea. He deliberately wrote each chapter to a particular mood, each from the beginning written in contrast with its corresponding chapter from the end, for a total of 25, crafting a strange up and down tale of ambiguities that dealt with the bizarre spiritual and symbolic content, and of course the grim reality of cannibalism. Had Poe, who died in October 1849, only known how terribly realistic his interpretations might come to be, might Poe's unconventional state of mind during the authorship and the resulting energy he put forth into the work somehow have caused some certain elements of his story to manifest in the physical realm of psychics and spies. Indeed, the fact that events from Poe's tale would recur, and accurate down to the name of the slain man, is eerie at very least. But still another writer, later called one of the modern innovators of creative nonfiction, would come to find that a particular developing character in the tale he crafted would also be closer to home than a mere character in his imagination. So close, for that matter, that he lived upstairs. American novelist and Pulitzer Prize winner Norman Kingsley Mailer, raised in Brooklyn, New York, would make the town of his upbringing the backdrop for his second novel, Barbary Shore. Written in 1951, many of the themes in the story reflected what would become touch pieces of the Cold War mindset, conveniently set within the confines of a Brooklyn rooming house, no doubt similar to that of Mailer's own experiences. In spite of the underlying themes, initially there had been no plan to incorporate a Russian spy as a character in the novel. Nonetheless, Mailer eventually began to shape in his mind the personage of a spy living there in the rooming house with the other characters. Perhaps the imagery was so lucid to him at the time he was able to build on the idea more quickly than certain other characters. For as he continued to flesh out the spy in his progressing story, the character began to dominate the tale. It was only after publication of Barbary Shore on June 21st, 1957, that an arrest was made in the very apartment building Mailer was living in at the time. The U.S. Immigration Service came to retrieve a man living right above Mailer. Suspected of being an international spy, the man was later found to be Colonel William Jumrikov Fisher, operating under the alias Rudolph Abel, and believed to be the top Russian spy in America at the time. Is it possible that Mailer, when fleshing out his fictional character, had actually been receptive to some other source of information, perhaps beyond the five senses? Perhaps the psychic novelist phenomenon occurs more than most people realize and unbeknownst to the novelists themselves. After all, not all instances are so dramatic as those of Poe or Mailer. British novelist Dame Rebecca West, having led a unique life as a writer of both fiction and nonfiction, and also a trained actress and broadcaster, and even having been present at the Nuremberg trials, described at least one similar instance. On one occasion, while at home writing a passage in which a girl finds a hedgehog in her garden, it is said that West was interrupted by servants who had called to alert her to the presence of a hedgehog in her own garden. So it seems that the truth might not be stranger than fiction after all, but perhaps only as strange as fiction. When writing, be careful where you allow your imagination to lead, and most of all, be mindful of what actually makes its way to the written page. Now, this man has room to talk. I'm just kidding. I love his writing. He is a freelance writer and chief field researcher for the LEMUR team based out of Asheville, North Carolina. He is also the executive producer of the Speaking of Strange with Joshua P. Warren, broadcast in the American Southeast every Saturday night. He may be reached at redskeltersdmf at AOL.com. And if you get a chance to read Micah Hanks' books, you need to. He's really, really great. And, I'm just so impressed with him. I can't say enough good words about him. Now, let's see. I'm just curious. This is 2007. I love I hate these lights. I see by the papers. And this is a column that Phyllis started, and now Matthew Kibbe, our new owner, is doing it too. He's so awesome. I haven't even gotten to meet him face to face yet, but he's a cool beans kind of guy. And I just think that I read this one last week. You can go listen to it from last week, but it's just cool. Fate magazine is so neat. And as I said, this is our new cover. Isn't that pretty? I love what we do. And and this is Matthew Kibbe's very first I see by the papers. And this says he's talking about the UFO files. Okay, he's discussing. I'm not going to go into all of it because he has written quite a narrative on it. But he too is talking about, by now most readers are likely familiar with the U.S. media's coverage of the May 2026 UFO files released by the Department of War. Domestic news outlets largely downplayed the documents, with some insinuating that they were an attempt to distract from the administration's other issues. How did the news land outside the states? Well, you need to get this edition of Fate and read that. I'll probably share it with you later. It's just very long. But one of the things, some foreign sources joined the home chorus by dismissing the importance of the files and wondering about the ulterior motives. A piece in Modern Ghana categorized the release as an occasion of anticipation and even celebration for the tinfoil hatters, and declared the files were not much to see. Al Jazeera chimed in, proposing a thin layer of political subterfuge might be involved. So, Egypt's state-controlled Al Iran repeated this formula, noting, some called Trump's promises bluster, a shiny object to distract Americans from the war with Iran. So, the Minsk Times, a major state-aligned Belarusian newspaper and pro-government media organization, argued that UFOs are a tool of Western propaganda. In an article titled Ideology of Dominance, they maintained that U.S. institutions benefit from the mystery surrounding UFOs, using it to reinforce perceptions of technological and national superiority. The implication that ETs can only be exposed by U.S. technology is one link in a chain of managed reality in which truth and myth alternate until they can no longer be separated. The Spanish El País featured conversations with UFO figure Stephen Bassett, who is actually a friend of mine, the longtime disclosure advocate and Washington, D.C. lobbyist. Lou Elizondo, former Pentagon official who worked on the government UFO investigation. He did a lot more than just work on that. And Ross Coulthart, Australian investigative journalist known for his reporting on UFOs. Bassett confirmed the Minsk Times optimism about the U.S., opinion about the U.S., when he said that American-led disclosure would make sense because the rest have ceded the spotlight on this issue to us for the last 80 years. Elizondo told the public not to celebrate early. There's still a long way to go. Coulthart criticized the lack of meaningful material and urged lawmakers to step up pressure. Our reward for the best English coverage goes to the Indian outlet Swaraya. I do not know how to say this word. I'm so sorry. SWARAJYA. Their article kicked off with this astute analysis. Ballet, Krippau, Streiber, and Young mapped this terrain decades ago. The blurry dots and the Pentagon's new files are modern mandalas, not visiting craft. Adding later, the phenomenon does not behave like visiting extraterrestrial hardware conducting scientific surveys. It behaves like a theatrical performance tailored for the cultural expectations of the era. You have our attention. The author dishes out some of the best characterizations of the military's hazy UFO videos we've ever seen, calling them 28 sensor-driven vignettes totaling 41 minutes of infrared ambiguity. Blurry smudges that are nearly impossible to identify, and a polished collection of the same grainy, indistinct shapes. Them's fighting words. We could not have said it better ourselves. Sorieva ends by insisting that real disclosure won't be found in photocopied documents or digital drops on a website. Instead, it exists in the gray area between materialism and the supernatural, and more importantly, in the stories told by those who have experienced the unknown. And I would not quite agree with that, because with the stuff that's come out since then, the first one, it's a lot of just dots. It really was. And it's really frustrating when all you see is just a brown light zipping around. And I get that. That is ambiguous. You can't really tell what it's doing. And I will say that some of the later releases have convinced me. I just thought it was flipping cool that we were getting releases. To be honest, I love it. And I am absolutely pretty darn impressed that we got anything at all after all this time. I mean, seriously, it's been a while. It's been a hot minute. 1947 was a long time ago. And we have had such credible researchers working on this. We have had such credible people all the way from the 1940s, who have come forward. I absolutely, hey, Melinda, it is so cool to me that we have anything released by anybody to share with us. And do I wish that we had gotten something that maybe would have been a little more informative? I would like for somebody to come out and say that they call it the jellyfish video. And you can find it online, jellyfish video. It was on a base it's in the Middle East, but Jeremy Corbyn is who shared that at, where were we? Phoenix UFO Congress. And that's where I met him. But what's interesting is that it's not what anyone would consider a UFO. Carl pulled it up for me one night when I was talking about it. And it was absolutely, I got so many calls about that. And it's really cool. But it's on a base, and it's very weird. I think it's weird. Doesn't look like anything that we've ever seen. And it's just odd. One of the things that I did like in these releases, it probably wasn't in the first one. I don't remember which. I've gone through these releases so many times. But I think that probably my very favorite out of what we saw was the one that I think it was in the second release. Carl, I think I'm right. The one that looked like it should be a cathedral window, but was in motion. And I was just like, but it wasn't flat. It was upright. And I thought, wow, how is that moving? This was moving. And then one of the ones in a later release, it was full color video, and it was two triangles going by. And they were obviously triangles, they were not blips. So, of course, that's been this since this was written. And I find it interesting because we've been told we've had smoke blown up our skirts since 1947. Stanton Friedman, who I loved dearly, he was such a nice man. He was a good person. He was a friend. Um, he spent his life work, later life work, researching this, writing so much about it. He was a he was not somebody that was easy to put the wool over on. He was brilliant, and he was convinced. He worked diligently. He wrote so many books. He wrote with Kathleen Martin, who is also equally brilliant, but she was Barney and Betty Hill's niece and had a vested interest in learning about what happened to her aunt and uncle. And if you have ever had the opportunity to hear the actual video, audio of their experience with Bud Hopkins with their hypnotherapy session, it was horrible. It was not a pleasant experience for them. They were scared because they were being followed by this craft, and B, it was not a good experience at all for them. It was not, ET phoning home and coming to visit. It was, they were treated as test subjects to be examined. And the recording is disturbing. So it was not a pleasant experience for them. And I think that when you get into political sides of things, there's a place for that. There is. When things come out, it's always, people always wonder why. Because we have been taught not to trust politicians, any politicians. And so it's really sad that we are judging that way. It's okay. I mean, things are questionable sometimes, and it's okay to call them out, and we're really supposed to. But I think that these later releases have touched on that a little bit. And excuse me, it's just really something else. Initially, yeah, you could probably question that. Subsequently, there's more than just the dots, although there's still a lot of dots, right? When you've got something that's a light source that's zipping, and the only thing that we know is that these they were not us. They were not our stuff. Nothing we have moves like that. Nothing we have moves that fast. So the subsequent releases, I felt like were maybe a little more compelling. The fact that we got any releases is a huge step up. And I'm going to tell you, I don't give a rat's butt why we got them. I really don't. We have them. And that genie cannot be put back in the bottle. I like that. Because we have been lied to since 1947 at least. Bald-faced lied to our face. No. We don't have any kind of underground bases. No. We don't have any kind of extraterrestrial communication. No. We do not have any experience with anything that is not of this earth. Lies all the way through, in my opinion. So, you know, got somebody that's not going back and they're releasing stuff. I like that. Any second term president should always do that. Just so you know, anybody that runs for president again, if you're in your second term, start putting it out. We want to know what else is coming. What else you have. Tell us about Roswell. Tell us about Area 51. We want to know what you got down there. So that's just my take on it. I've been to Area 51. There is not a lot. It's even the mailbox was gone, guys. Somebody stole the flipping mailbox. So that was disappointing. That did get an alien burger at the little alien, but it was just you have to go. It's just there. You got to go check it out. Not to mention the fact that I got to stand in the middle of a dry lake bed. And given what I know about lakes here, I was just like, ooh, I sure do hope this doesn't collapse. All of a sudden starts filling back in. But I love ufology. I love the fact that we have been putting people in boxes and calling them nuts forever. Not giving them credibility, calling them bald-faced liars, lunatics. I mean, just completely not involved with trying to give them credibility because it mattered so much, for whatever reason, that the public not be allowed to know that this was something real. Just because we're not, we're not in the military, just because we're not a politician. Politicians are no great shakes. All they are just like us with more money that want to go and live off the public fund. Okay. They're not any better than we are. They're not any more intelligent than we are. They just have friends that'll spend all their money to put them in office so that they can do what their friends want them to do. And their credibility ain't all that. And they've been lying to us since 1947 at least. So, let's see. Melinda says that she is a certified nut and proud of it. Well, you know what? I could be that too because I believe in UFOs and I believe in fate. So, definitely believe in fate. But it's just one of those things that we have stuff. We have files. And I'm ready for the next one, people. Put it out. They've been coming like every other week or so. We're due. I know we've got a big old indie style race up there, but put something out. I don't like racing that much. But I love UFOs. Or at least information about UFOs. Now, this is... I loved this cover when I saw it. Okay, this is from December of 2007. And it says, we've got talking animals. Angels are everywhere. There we go. And vampires aren't nice. So there's that. And this looks like Victoria Morris, who did this cover. It's gorgeous. So connect with your pet. I love this because this has advertisements. There's that. Too dadgum much like. Proof of demonic possession. Possession and exorcism, a hard-to-find examination of the phenomena of possession and exorcism by an award-winning Swiss psychiatrist concludes that these experiences are quite real and are not just psychological abnormalities. The concept of possession is as old as recorded history. It is not possible to understand the phenomenon of possession within the framework of natural science. True insight into the essence of psychic phenomena can only be conveyed through direct experience. Modern psychiatry and psychology exclude the question of good and evil, and therefore also the demonic. And that's actually a really valid point, because if you're going to not have it part of your research and possibilities, how are you going to rule it out? But anyway, this is a book, Possession and Exorcism, by Hans Nageli Oswald, MD. And see if I can get that. There we go. There you go. So, ads in Fate Magazine and the Connect with Your Pet, Natural Pet Healing. And it's a step-by-step guide, explores natural ways people and their pets can help each other heal. And I will say that that's actually a really valid point, and it really works, because we have done that for each other. In this copy of Fate, December 2007, Angels We Have Heard All Around Us by Brad and Sherry Steiger. What Dwells Above by Catherine Clark. That is a true story of something in the old mansion. Vampires and Disease, The Blood-Sucking Corpses of English Tradition by Daniel J. Wood. The Old Alton Bridge by Rick Moran. I haven't seen that name in a little minute. Beyond the Dark by J.O. Jackson, reprinted from the December 1957 Fate. How about that? Oh, Melinda, send it to me. Melinda says she has a video for me to review. I would love to do that. And this, I see by the papers, Phyllis has NASA forced to release UFO docs. The UFO group Coalition for Freedom of Information has successfully forced NASA to turn over documents pertaining to the 1965 Kecksburg, Pennsylvania UFO incident through the settlement of a lawsuit the group has brought against the space agency. As a result of NASA's refusal to release its records concerning the Kecksburg case, CFI filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit in 2003 as part of a broader FOIA campaign supported by the Sci-Fi Channel. U.S. District Judge Emmett G. Sullivan approved the settlement that requires NASA to comb through documents about the UFO case and provide copies to Leslie Keene, who is brilliant, investigative journalist with CFI and plaintiff in the lawsuit. NASA is also required to declassify any relevant documents, explain any redactions, and to pay Keene's legal fees as part of the settlement. Go, Leslie. Following the settlement announcement, Keene said, "Finally, we hope to acquire the relevant documents about Kecksburg that are required by law. I look forward to working with NASA on the resolution of the terms set out by the court and to providing the public with the information it's been waiting for." John Podesta, former chief of staff for President Clinton, who has been a vocal supporter of Keene's effort, said of the landmark settlement, "The time to pull the curtain back on this incident is long overdue. Leslie Keene's victory is a triumph for open government and the spirit of inquiry." Keene's attorney, Lee Helfrich, was also quite pleased with the outcome. "It is unprecedented to have achieved success, but forcing an agency to do this kind of extensive historical search under FOIA without congressional intervention," he stated. Coalition for Information Freedom. Now, I don't know about you, I am not aware of that being completed. And I'm going to look into that and I will let you know because I do follow Leslie's work. So that's a big deal. And let's see. Other things that she covered in this were candidates on UFOs. Two Democratic presidential hopefuls were recently asked about their feelings on UFOs and some rather high profile venues. This was Representative Dennis Kucinich of Ohio was asked during a nationally televised debate if he had ever seen a UFO. It says the goddaughter of your daughter, God, yeah, the godmother of your daughter, Shirley MacLaine, writes in her new book that you've sighted a UFO over her home in Washington State, that she found the encounter extremely moving, that it was a triangular craft, silent and hovering, that you felt a connection to your heart and heard directions in your mind. Did you see a UFO? I did, Kucinich replied. He also quipped, also, you have to keep in mind that Jimmy Carter saw a UFO and also that more people in this country have seen UFOs than I think approve of George Bush's presidency. He likely won't hold a monopoly on the UFO vote, though, as in New Mexico, Governor Bill Richardson also dived into the topic on the campaign trail, promising at a town hall meeting that if elected, he would reopen the Roswell UFO case to examination. Richard said, I've been in government a long time. I've been in the cabinet. I've been in the Congress. And always felt that the government doesn't tell the truth as much as it should on a lot of issues. Richardson said that as a member of Congress, he once asked the Department of Defense about their data on the Roswell incident and was told the records were classified. That ticked me off, he told the audience. What do you want me to do? You want me to open up all these files? I'll work with you on that. I love that. Baltimore Sun and Albuquerque Tribune. So, it's not unheard of, right? And I actually did not know that Leslie had won that. I am so going to look into that. It's different. Oh my word. And she goes on to say, guys, this has so many I see by the papers. This was a big month. The X-Files return. Chupacabras that wasn't. Paranormal poll. A new survey on society's beliefs regarding the paranormal reveals there are a lot of believers out there. According to a poll conducted by the Associated Press in October, 34% of Americans believe in ghosts and 23% say they have either seen a ghost or been in one's presence. 19% of those polled said they believe in witchcraft and 20% described themselves as superstitious. That's pretty fun. And then cremated man found alive. Oh dear. Okay, I know I read you that headline. Gina Partington, a 58-year-old mother, believes she had cremated her missing son Tommy only to have him turn up alive and well a day later. She had mistakenly identified a dead man in the hospital as her son. Partington says that when she saw the man lying on the mortuary block, she was absolutely sure it was her son. I went and lifted the shroud, and it was Tommy. I held his hand. It was him. I went and she says her son and the other man could have been twins. While picking up her granddaughter from a Halloween party, Partington received a call from the police saying they urgently needed to speak with her. They showed me a photograph of somebody they said they had in custody in the Midlands for a few days, and it was my son. I said, no, it's a joke. They'd arranged for me to speak to him. Then on the way home, I got a surreal call. I've got my granddaughter sitting there in Halloween costume, and this boy says, hiya, Mom, it's me, Tim. Oh, my goodness. And that is a BBC article. That's crazy. So I wonder if they ever found out who that was. So, and I like this because then, darn lights. Yeah, I'm going to just put me in the dark so y'all can see all these things. But she's got a bulletin board with conventions and everything coming up back then. She's so smart. And then she's got the International UFO Congress, and that was in Nevada that year. Fort Fest, the X Conference, the Convergence Conference, and of course, Ozark UFO Conference, my fave. But it's just so cool. It really is when you get to learn all the things that are happening in this. There's a lot that goes on in the anomalous fields, and we don't. I have a hard time keeping up with them. There's, and I get emails. I still have a hard time keeping up with new ones that are coming up, and there's some that I try to go to regularly. I try to always be at the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference because to me that is the most guest friendly, attendee friendly conference that there is. It's very interactive. There are people that go there all the time, just recognize each other. You have access to the speakers, and the people that run it are just brilliant and nice. And all the big ones are really cool too. I haven't been to a bad one. Whether it's Contact in the Desert, whether it's UFO Congress, whether it's the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, whether it's any conference. The UFO Congress was probably my favorite with relevance to how it was run and the people that I got to interact with. That was when Lou Elizondo was coming to the fore. It was pretty cool. My favorite I guess technical conference. I love the Scientific Coalition on UAP Studies. I wasn't a it wasn't huge when I first went. It was a small conference, but it is nuts and bolts. It is science. It is people who work in the fields of sciences that pertain to the dynamics of how UFOs would function. And when I got to first meet the pilots that interacted with the UFO, UAP, interacting with the Nimitz, that was really something else because they were very interesting. And that's where I got to spend some time getting to know John Alexander, who is a retired military man who is very knowledgeable on the topic of UFO UAP and who is very much a nuts and bolts guy. And I think that when you're getting the opportunity to talk to these people and things are kind of not what you studied, not what you're that familiar with, all of a sudden you're being included in conversations with people that can explain it to you and make you aware of just why this is such a big deal, why this is so important, how much are you going to write off, as it were, as being an impossibility. Well, I think that what we're starting to find out is that there are not a lot of impossibilities anymore. Minds are being opened, and they're being opened because we have 4 releases of UFO UAP files. You will never convince me that they didn't change it from unidentified flying object to unidentified aerial phenomenon in order to confuse records later, because that's how government works. So it's very important that we not lose the term UFO just sound more like a cool kid, a Hillary Clinton kid, because that's what all the cool kids are calling it now. Because you're going to lose a lot of history if people don't know to look under that too. So it's a big deal. Moderately big deal, but it's a big deal to me. I think it matters. So there is that. Let's see. I know, dead air time. I'm trying to figure out what to look at, what to share. So this, I always love the I see by the paper section. I'm so glad Matt is doing that too, because I think it matters. It's just an important thing. And I love his article. I mean, I may have sounded like I was kind of joking on him. I wasn't. We all have our opinions. And, you know, there was a lot going on, and it may have been diversionary to start releasing those files. But to be honest, I don't care that at least we have them, and we've had others since the first one. And now, if they can just show me imagery from Area 51, that would be cool. Hello, Pete Hegseth, you're the one that's releasing. Were you picking them yourself? Because those would be good. Just saying. I like the craft. I really do like the craft. But I want to see Area 51. Go ahead and tell us about it. We won't tell anybody. So let's see. I already read that. Y'all got to hear that before. What do we have here? Yeah, I read all of those. Let's go to the table of contents. Because there's a reason I had this one. Nick Redburn. One of my favorite guys. He's so nice. He wrote Strange Tales from the London Underground. And I'm sure there are some. And I'm not going to read this whole article because it's quite wordy. Nick is quite wordy. But this is so interesting because it's England's famous London Underground Railway system serves Greater London and parts of the counties of Essex, Hertfordshire, and Buckinghamshire. And it's also the world's oldest underground network of its type. Services began on January 10th, 1863 on the Metropolitan Railway. And today the London Underground has no fewer than 268 stations and approximately 250 miles of track, making it the longest subsurface railway in the world. And in 2007, there were over 1 billion passengers were recorded as having used the underground since its creation. So he presented some kind of interesting stories here. Let's see. Devolved humans. Tales of ghosts and monsters roaming the sinister depths of the London Underground have circulated for years. Some of these legends were incorporated into the 1972 film titled Deathline, starring horror movie stalwarts Christopher Lee and Donald Pleasance. The movie tells the story of a cave-in at a station being built in Russell Square in the 1890s. When the accident occurs, several Irish laborers Both men and women were presumed killed. Are presumed killed. The construction company subsequently goes bankrupt and cannot afford to dig out the bodies. As might be expected, the laborers don't actually die, but instead they survive and reproduce. 80 years later, their devolved offspring live deep within the underground tunnels, replenishing their food supply from the platform at Russell Square. Michael Goss has studied legends of such devolved humans roaming the tunnels of London and is skeptical that they have any basis in fact. These troglodytes exist in that nebulous quasi-material form that is part rumor, part legend. The subterranean seems a deceptively playful kind of London legend, sort of which narrators repeat with disparaging amusement, but which cries out to be believed. They probably eat the sandwiches and burgers we discard, and it's widely believed that they also eat tramps, drunks, and other isolated late-night commuters. Now you have another good reason for avoiding the Northern Line after rush hour. Okay, but not everyone is quite so certain that the reports are the stuff of myth. John Downes is the director of the British-based Centre for Fortean Zoology, dedicated to the investigation of mysterious animals such as Bigfoot, the abominable snowman, and the Loch Ness Monster. Between 1982 and 1985, Downes worked as a nurse at the Royal Counties Hospital near the English city of Exeter. While employed there, Downes heard stories of how, at some point in the 1940s, disturbing things occurred that had a direct link with tales of strange goings-on beneath the London Underground. According to the doctor Downes spoke with, the events began with a series of late-night phone calls to the hospital from the Lord Lieutenant of the county, from then Earl of Devon, and from elements of the Devonshire police force, all secretly informing senior personnel at the hospital that a highly dangerous patient was to be brought to the hospital within the hour and would require specialist care in an isolated, locked-down room. Around 45 minutes later, a police vehicle arrived at the hospital, reversing with a screech up to a side door. Several police officers tumbled out of the back door of the vehicle while trying to hang on to what the doctor said resembled a dirt-crusted and hair-covered caveman. The creature was reportedly around 6 feet in height and completely naked. It had a heavy brow, wide nose, and very muscular arms and legs. For 3 days, the man-beast was securely held at the hospital. Downes was advised before it was transferred to an unspecified location far below the London Underground. Its fate remains unknown. And, yeah, that's interesting and a little freaky, because the New York Underground is probably in no great shakes either if you go into all of that. And let's see, what did you say? Prior to 2017, the government claimed they had no records, and that's exactly right. And that's why it's a big deal, because I've always wondered why, if you're not coming back and you know you're not coming back, Clinton had such an interest in this stuff, right? And Bush had such an interest in this stuff. Carter had an experience himself, and none of them did anything. Maybe if Carter had come back, but it was just like, if you knew, and I know there's a lot of stuff that they are not read in on because they're considered temporary employees, but they're still commander-in-chief. And if they say, I really want you to do this, I'm going to put it in writing and do this, then ostensibly somebody would have had to do it. And what were they afraid of? Really. There's a reason that people, there's a lot of power, I feel like, in being able to say, I don't give a rat's butt, we're going to do this. This is right. These people pay our salaries. These people pay for all the research we're doing. They pay for the planes that we fly. They have a right to know if there's something else out there. It's not right. Well, it is rocket science, but it's not something that should be kept in such a dark place that it's people that talk about it are considered fringe. Fate magazine was considered fringe at one time. I don't think it is so much now. And it's really a big deal that we've been reported. The Kenneth Arnold experience of the first UFOs, they look like saucers. That's why they're called flying saucers, because when Kenneth Arnold saw 9 of these disc-shaped craft, and he was coming past Mount Rainier, and he reported it because he was a pilot. He saw something in the air. He didn't know what it was, and he let his ground communications know that happened. It's a big deal, and he did not lose credibility because he did that. And that year, Fate magazine was born. That was the first cover, the first issue of Fate magazine. And we've been covering UFO, UAP, whatever, ever since. And we'll continue to do so. And, I agree with Matthew. I think that, this probably was a diversionary thing, but I also think it was, I'm not coming back, I don't give a rest, but, we're going to get this out there. People deserve to know. And if it had just been the one, I probably would have stuck right with them on that. And it's probably right. But we're still getting information. We're due for another one. And I don't run the articles as much, but putting them in here, the written files, because they're long in large part. The videos are the sexy part. Okay, they're interesting. The pilot reaction is interesting, and I think it matters because we were lied to for so long. Bald-faced, lied to. Anybody who reported seeing these was ridiculed, and they knew that they were telling the truth. That sucks. It would be terrible to be that person. I had an experience, and it was not taken seriously by my parents. It was not taken seriously by really anybody, and wasn't an abduction, but it was a weird thing to see. And I've seen more than one. I'm a sky watcher. I see things all the time moving that don't look right, but that's okay. And it's really interesting to me that we have anything at all. And why didn't the other second-term presidents release it? Wouldn't have been hard. It would not have been difficult. It's the power of the pen. All they had to do was sign an order. That's all Trump did. Go figure, right? It's what it is. But we have them now. And I am so sorry, guys. I was out at a football game yesterday, and I can't say much because my 7-year-old grandson was in full pads playing a football game. And my little granddaughter was out there cheering for all she was worth. So it was fun. But man, was it hot. I live in Alabama. It was so hot. And I went home as soon as I could afterwards. But it was a lot of fun. So let's see what else we have here. Yeah, I just I love this stuff. It's just like, yeah, this, oh, Rick Moran. This is about the Frank's box. And I've got friends that use so many different devices. You know, I shared about Tony Rathman with the Staticom. Most brilliant thing I've ever used. I'm not kidding. It's really cool. Um, the other most brilliant thing that I've used is the what is that, guys? The Portal, and that was, cannot remember his last name. Steve. Is it Steve Huff? Doesn't have a lot of. Um, he gets a lot of disrespect sometimes, and I don't know him, so I cannot judge that. But the device that he designed is called a portal. And the gel that I mentioned, the old Paulding gel, is someplace that I've used that. My friend bought the specs for that box and built it. And it's a fair sized device. It's it's amazing. There is nothing that creates I mean, it's not radio or anything, but when you get communication, it's very hard not to believe that there's a spirit there. I got into a situation where I had upset a ghost or two or six, and it was kind of a confrontational moment, and I couldn't hear them, but there were things making a lot of noise around me that weren't moving. It was very strange. So Shelly had that. I said, I would, can we turn that on? Because I want to hear what they're saying. And it was very much you know, I just kind of went off with, why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. I drove all this way to do this. And I'm doing a live broadcast from here. And, and you're acting like this and you're messing with my stuff. And, they messed with my computers. They did everything. It was crazy. And I was live. It was crazy. So, and then I went off. I was like, I drove all the way here. I live in Alabama. I could be at home, but I came here so that I could help Shelly promote the gel and let them know about the spirits, about y'all being here, and then blah, 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 blah. And then the portal goes, really? Yeah, that's exactly why I'm here. Why did you think I was here? And went on to have a conversation, an intelligent conversation coming through that box. And it's called the portal. And I don't even know if you can still buy those specs, but best device I've ever seen in my life. Staticom's close, but for direct communication, that was that was like the holy grail moment when I did not doubt whatsoever that I was talking to a human spirit who was not living, who was not visible, who I couldn't touch. There's no tangible evidence that there was a human being standing there except for the voice coming through the box. And other spirits' voices sounded different. They did not all sound the same. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, ask, did they sound like themselves? It was the coolest thing I've ever experienced in the paranormal field. One of probably is the coolest one. But and with the Staticom, there's no noise. It's just a white noise generator like the portal. And it's very disconcerting. I've had spirit come through who said that they were that they were not of Earth. And were those ETs? Not through the portal. Not through the portal. But doing EVP sessions. And it's just like, where are you from? Not here. Well, where? Inquiring minds want to know, right? So, do I think that all of this communication stuff is real? Yes, I do. I've had too many intelligent responses to too many off the wall questions, some of which I knew the answer to before I asked. It's real. These craft are real. We're not being spoon fed BS. They are real. And it's just really, it's fun. And I hope that those releases keep coming, and I hope that they get to be more detailed, because we pay for all of them. All of them. We pay for every one of those files that they have. Our tax dollars at work give them to us. So we are just about out of time. I know that I had to duck out for a little while, but Carl took over. So I'm going to wrap this up and tell all of you, thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week. It will be the same cat time, same cat channel. It will not be just me. So be blessed. Have a great week. Love somebody. And love yourself. Take care of you. And we will see you then. Good night. Thank you for